Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and today's video is going to be a diesel battle. We are comparing the high output Cummins to the Duramax to the high output Power Stroke, and all of these trucks are actually similar when it comes to packaging. We've got a Lariat, an LTZ, and a Laramie. Before we get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Lariat Ford here in Provo, the Ram here in Provo, and the Chevy here in Provo for giving me some time with all three trucks. I'll include a link to all of their websites in the description down below. I'll also include a link to my car buying guide in the description down below as well. Let's get into it. Powering the Ford is the high output Power Stroke. It's a 6.7 liter turbo diesel V8 that goes through a 10 speed. It puts out 500 horsepower and then 1,200 pound-feet of torque. Now powering the Chevy is the Duramax 6.6 liter turbo diesel V8 that also goes through a 10 speed automatic transmission. This puts out 470 horsepower and then 975 pound-feet of torque. And then powering the Ram is the high output Cummins. It's a turbo diesel 6.7 liter inline 6 that goes through a 6-speed automatic transmission. It puts out 420 horsepower and then 1,075 pound-feet of torque. Now before we move forward with this comparison, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Now this video is mainly going to focus on the powertrains, how they drive and all of that, but I do want to mention, like I said, these are all comparable. So you've got Lariat, LTZ, and Laramie, and it's interesting to see the design differences with the trucks, especially the front end. I mean, the Ford has like a huge air dam, whereas the other two, a little bit more reasonably sized with the air dams. Now I do want to talk about suspension at this point. So they obviously all have HD springs, but the Ram has a solid front axle, whereas the Chevy has independent front suspension, and then the Ford, just like the Ram, has a solid front axle. And funny enough, the Ford and the Chevy both have bedside steps, but the Ford has like a double step system. So yeah, kind of interesting on that. And in the back, we got leaf springs and a solid rear axle with the Ford. We've got leaf springs and a solid rear axle with the Chevy. And guess what? The Ram has leaf springs and a solid rear axle. Now when it comes to bed features, you can see the Ram has a bed liner. We've got LED lights here in the bed. You can see we've got a full power outlet in the bed. This one has a fifth wheel prep. So it has a decent amount of amenities, and this is easy to get up. Now with the Chevy, you can get an auto raise and auto lower tailgate with them. LED lights, outlet, fifth wheel prep, just like the Ram. So similar with the bed stuff, but a little bit fancier with the tailgate because it automatically raises up. And then with the Ford, just like with the Chevy, you have the auto raise and lower. I don't know why that didn't get my hand the first time. Guess what? LED lights, outlet, fifth wheel prep, bed liner. Now this Ford's an 8-foot bed, so it makes this comparison a little bit wishy-washy because those both have 6.5-foot boxes. But regardless, you can see the amenities with them are pretty similar when you compare the trucks back to back. Oh, I guess this one's not the automatic up, so gotta lift that up. And then take a look at the receiver hitch. You can see with the Ford here at the hitch, and then comparing that to the Chevy, it's interesting to see how the loops are a little bit different on the hitches. So the Ram and the Chevy have like the same one. It's the Ford's that's a little bit different with the hitch in the back. So this brings us to towing capacities. Now max towing capacity with all these trucks, if they were a dually, is crazy. That one's like 40,000 pounds, and these two are like mid 30,000 pounds. But realistically, in the real worlds with trucks that most of you are gonna buy, single rear wheel trucks, with the Ram, you're looking at, you know, kind of like in closer to the mid-20s, not quite there. With the Silverado, they're always around about 20,000 pounds, and then with the Ford, mid-20s. So basically the Ford tows the most, the Ram's the second most, and then the Silverado is the third with that. And then this brings us to payloads. So the Ram has 3,454 pounds of payload capacity, and then I'll give you guys a quick look at the interior with the Ram Laramie. You can see you've got that big gauge cluster, got these nice seats as well. You can see huge infotainment system. And then when it comes to towing, we do have trailer brake controls. This one has rear air suspension, so you've got that for the alternate trailer height. Diesel exhaust brake. We've got a 2-speed transfer case as well. So it's got all the tow stuff you need. Now with the Silverado, 3,806 pounds of payload capacity. And then taking a look at the LTZ interior here. You can see here with the seats and all of that. We've got a better four-wheel drive system than the Ram, I'd say, because it's got four-wheel auto, as well as a 2-speed transfer case stuff. And then you can see trailer brake controls with this. We also have a diesel exhaust brake, just like the Ram. So it doesn't have the rear air suspension, but still has, you know, the important towing stuff. And then taking a look at the Ford, 3,908 pounds of payload. And here's kind of the interior with the Lariat. Got a nice material use. Funny enough, nothing here like on the other trucks. But anyways, you can see with this, we just have a traditional 2-speed transfer case, just like the Ram. It has a rear locking differential, which is cool. We also have our trailer brake controls and then diesel exhaust brakes up top. No rear air suspension, so the Ram's the only one with that. Now, when it comes to pricing, the high output power stroke is $12,495, and this truck as equipped, $92,435. Kind of hard to see because of the snow, but with the Silverado, the price of the Duramax is $9,490, and then the total MSRP on this is $84,365. And then finishing things up with the Ram, the price of the high output Cummins, I think it's lower down on this. There we go. $12,595, $106,095 is the total MSRP. So let's take these trucks out, drive them, and see which one wins. There you go. The Ram definitely has the longest preheat out of all the trucks. But here's a quick look at visibility. I will say I do love the sound of the Cummins. It's got that old school diesel rumble that, yeah, I just absolutely love. Just listen to that, just chug, 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 chug. Really cool sound. See what the torque is like when we do acceleration. Also talk about, you know, the rest of the truck, right? Like, you know, seat comfort, which in the Ram is really good. And then suspension comfort, which in the Ram it's a little bit harsh. It's a little bit bumpier. Definitely drives like an HD truck. Gosh, 1,075 pound-feet of torque. This thing is a monster. It is an absolute monster. It's pretty well insulated. It's, you know, storms are starting to kind of roll in right now, and so you can kind of see the clouds in the background. It's gotten a little bit windy, but it's pretty solid in terms of the insulation with the truck. So I think that's something that's impressive. A little bit of lag. But once you're able to get on it, I mean, this thing is powerful. It's not, I wouldn't call it fast, but it feels brutish. It's really cool. Yeah, smooth. So yeah, with the Ram, it definitely drives like an HD truck with the solid axles, leaf springs. You feel it in the suspension, but the seat's really comfortable, really nice interior, super usable center console. Ram's done a good job with, I think, designing this interior. I think it still might be my favorite interior in terms of user friendliness out of the truck. So let's go pop into the Silverado. Let's talk about visibility here in the Silverado. Over the hood, both the mirrors, throughout the rear, and Silverado away. Right off the bat, the independent front suspension definitely makes a difference with the steering weight and also turning radius. This feels like it turns a little bit sharper than that Ram. Suspension also seems to be a little bit more comfortable. Seats, though, are not as comfortable as the Rams. Powertrain's smoother. 10-speed versus the 6-speed, and big V8 diesel versus an inline 6. I mean, this is a higher horsepower engine. You can feel it. You can feel the difference. very smooth. Braking is similar to the Rams. All of them have those kind of like spongy HD truck brakes. Takes a little bit to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's fine. Again, I like this center console design's fine, but I think the Ram's solution for storage is superior. But I do like the build quality in the new Chevys is really good. It's very tight. The Ram does feel tight too. It's the Ford that's kind of the loosest on that front, but it's not bad. It actually doesn't really feel faster than the Ram. It's smoother, but it doesn't really, yeah, it doesn't really feel faster. It's similar, surprisingly. I'm sure it's 0 to 60. It has to be faster because it's got more horsepower, even though it has less torque. But yeah, I think the torque deficit is what makes this not feel, you know, necessarily faster than the Ram, because it doesn't have as big of a punch, even though it's got more horsepower to kind of keep it going. So yeah, Silverado done. Let's check out the Ford. Let's talk about visibility before we set off. Here's visibility over the hood, both the mirrors. That's the rear. And Ford away. Ooh, there's a Raptor R. That's cool. It's in between in terms of sound. The Duramax is the quietest. This is not as rumbly as a Cummins, but it's rumblier. Suspension seems to be more similar to the Silverado's. I mean, it's got a solid front axle like the Ram, but it's more comfortable than the Ram actually, which is pretty cool. Oof! It's got some power. Yeah, I mean, compared to the other two, right off the bat, this just, man, it pushes hard. It pushes hard. I'd say the seats are the most comfortable in this. They're pretty close to the Rams. This one actually has a bench seat, which is kind of a weird thing. But even with the center console design, I still think the Ram kind of wins with that, with their storage solution inside. But overall, I mean, the interior on the F-150, it's not quite as like tight as the Ram or as the Chevys. It's just kind of like a Ford thing, I feel like. But it's not bad by any means. It's just kind of interesting how they've done things differently here on the Ford. But should be able to get our, yeah, should be able to get our acceleration in just a moment here. Gotta let a couple people here cross. There we go. Should be good now. Let's see what this high output's all about. Whoa! Yeah, 1,200 pound-feet of torque, 500 horsepower. It's crazy. This, I mean, the other two, you know, they're quick. This thing broke those rear tires loose like it's nobody's business. So definitely the craziest powertrain. So to cap things off, I've said this before, and I know a lot of people kind of agree with me. I wish we could combine certain elements from the truck. So I know the independent front suspension isn't necessarily the best for certain towing circumstances, but the turning radius of the independent front suspension from the Chevy, the smooth ride quality from the Chevy with that too. I'd say the interior layout of the Ram with the storage and everything, the seats probably from the Ford. What else would we combine with our crazy truck? When it comes to powertrain, man, if they could put that Cummins with a 10-speed, that'd be so cool. But yeah, the high output power stroke, it's so crazy. But the Chevy's is also really smooth. It's not nearly as powerful, but it's powerful enough. So let me know which truck you would like out of the three, but I'd say the Ford has the craziest powertrain, and then the Chevy's smooth, and then the Ram it's got that old school rumble that, you just gotta love in a diesel.